My name is Fernell Miller, and this is my story.
So nice to meet you, Fernell. Tell me more about your organization, The Root of Us.
Hi, and thank you for asking. I am the founder and CEO of The Root of Us, which is a consultancy agency that focuses on identity, racial equity, youth advocacy, and just plain how to be your most authentic self and live together with our humanity. I started this company in 2020. My son, my daughter, I have two sons, and they have been watching me do, they call it work. It's not work to me. They've just been watching me interact with my community for this past 30 years and said, Mom, you just need to take this to a bigger platform. More people need to hear and see about what you're doing. And to me, it's a Tuesday. I'm not doing anything. Basically, my story is I've created something that I've always needed myself that I didn't see in the world. And that representation is so important. And I went through an experience with a predominantly white school district without seeing myself in my classrooms, in my entire school, in my neighborhood. And so how I describe it to my students at school, my third graders, I say, what if you went through the whole day and never saw another person that looked like you? I'm talking to all my girls first. And I said, what if your whole world were boys and you never got to hear or play with any other girls or see any girls or women in your life? Would that make you feel some kind of way? And some of the girls said, I think I'm going through that now, Miss Miller. And same thing for the boys. And I said, that kind of isolation makes you feel like might be something wrong with you. That's called racial isolation. And so I have a good friend who has done a beautiful documentary called Black Girl in Suburbia. That's Melissa Lowry. And that was the first time I saw my story in film or represented on the screen. And I couldn't believe it. Finally, what was going on inside my head that I knew was not a normal got to be shared and told all across the screen. And so it just took me back to my very first upbringing. My parents are educators. My father's siblings are educators. My grandparents are educators. Their parents are. I tried not to be a teacher. But I am, and in the truest form is your identity is developed by the time you're 5 years old. You know everything about how the world operates and who you are in it from all of the observations and categorizing that young people do. And so my very first memories were of my identity and being fully whole and fully human. My parents were educators in South Dakota. I was born on Pine Ridge Reservation, and I'm learning more and more about that history. But what I remember is being in a community of Black and brown people and bodies, and so seeing their brilliance and knowing community. My voice was valued. I was validated as a human being. I was very connected to the land and the people. I had full awareness that my voice had value and I was important. And so it wasn't until we moved out of that space into a predominantly white neighborhood, and again the redlining in the 70s and the civil rights movement just starting. It was very difficult to get the size of home with the diversity, both those two things. We're trying to make our American dream, but still white neighbors didn't want us to have their dream next door to them. And so when I moved into that community, I immediately knew that there was some duality going on. I have a picture of myself the day my father had this lecture, beautiful story for us. We were about to go out into the neighborhood and introduce ourselves. That was his way of humanizing us to the community. Hey, we're the Collinses. We're going to be walking our dog here, going to the store, going to the school. All of those things helped protect us in a neighborhood. And his speech to us was, now remember, you are just as good as everybody else. You can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want. And I just remember that moment. I was about 7 years old. And I just looked at him to say, I already knew that. Why are you telling me that? I already knew instinctively and internally that I was fully human. And yet I didn't know as a 7-year-old that my dad was trying to protect me from the day I was going to wake up to the duality of I was not going to get treated humanely or as a full human being as I walk through the world in my beautiful black body. And so as I went through that school experience, I just knew that something wasn't right. I just really felt sorry for my educators who had never speak about experiences out in the world like I knew. They kept their, education was very in a box. It was very white-centered. We only talked and celebrated white authors and heroes and the whiteness, beauty and standards. And I never heard about the contributions and celebrating of anybody else who was not in that white-centered world. And I just thought, gosh, wow, look how much you're missing. Why don't they know? And as a young child, I'm just so curious about why don't they know? And obviously in hindsight, it's because it's intentional. And we've been, we're probably, I feel that we're more segregated now than we have ever been. And so even though I went through that experience, which was very excruciating, being so racially isolated, the racial attacks were coming just like Ruby Bridges. I have a Ruby Bridges experience every year of school, even into my adulthood. And so I just started creating the spaces that I knew I wanted to be. I wanted to see other kids who looked like me. I wanted to be with other kids who actually recognized and saw me as a human being, and that could be any ethnicity, culture, or race. I just wanted to belong. And so the Root of Us creates spaces of belonging. And I guess I would say it really came to fruition when the pandemic hit in 2020 and kids were not in school, and yet they needed to be connected. And so as we met, I would use the weather to check in and say, how is your internal weather report? Because weather is a common language that we use all over. And so I could have them grasp onto those terms to talk about how they felt inside. So if I knew a student says, man, I got fireballs coming with, inside, or hail with fire on it, that meant, oh, we need to stop and have this conversation or circle. So as they were experiencing for the first time being out of that kind of assimilation, showing up a certain way, being tracked and stalked and policed in their schools, being the only black student in their class or in their school, it was very clear that this was the first time they were able to take a breath to go, oh, wow, what a difference of environment. They got their own minds back, were able to hold their bodies in a way that didn't have to show up and assimilate into whiteness. It was a freedom that they had never experienced before. Yet I already knew that freedom because I grew up that way. I knew that by the time I was 5. So that's mostly my cure or the care that I put into holding space for young people and anybody who wants to learn about how to be your most full and true authentic self. There it is.
So you've been teaching for over 35 years. What lessons have you learned along the way?
Over 35 years. I think this is year 39. Yes, I am taking with me 3 lessons. And one is keep play at the central and focus. And I mean play as in P, put it down. No youth is going to remember all the things you did. They're going to know what kind of time and how they felt in your presence. So put down what you have and center that P. L is for lift them up. I describe this to parents all the time. I said you need to, every child needs to feel like they are lifted up from underneath their armpits and swung around in delight. That's how kids know that they truly matter and belong, and that gives them something that only their most important adult can do. And so that's what the root of play is for kids. And A is for ask. Ask them if it's okay. Is this play okay? Is it okay if we do that? Let them lead. They'll tell you. They know what they need. You need to listen. So ask them. And Y is for yes. All your answers should be yes and. Yes, we can do that. And if there's more to do, or and in this way. Always make a way to say yes. That's play. And number 2, resist, rescue. That robs kids of their reality and authenticity and their confidence and knowing that they can do it. We learn because we make mistakes and fail. That's what learning is. And so if you rob them at the last second out of that lesson, they don't learn, and then we end up being adults without being able to operate and move in the world in a way that gives us confidence and freedom.
So the system is designed to oppress our students of color and label them difficult and problematic. As a teacher, what are your thoughts on how we can best uplift these students?
So as we look at how Black and brown students are dehumanized, criminalized, disenfranchised in their own education, the deficit that we start with, that part of it needs to be erased, removed. There is always a reason behind behavior, but if we don't see their humanity and that they are loved and cherished by their adults at home, you miss the value, the cultural value, the humanity, the appreciation for how they show up. And so in school, we spend a lot of time training kids how to show up and how to show up in a middle class white capacity, which doesn't allow them full expression of their humanity. And so they spend their time at school operating between a 4 and a 7 to avoid being in that criminalized, dehumanized system. And so as educators, we first need to see their humanity. That comes from knowing our own identity and how we show up, so we aren't the ones doing the harm, that we so point at students to be the problem and don't ever look at the 4 fingers pointing back at us who may be more part of the harm than that's actually showing up in their behavior. So we've got to look at the whole picture. Thank you.
How do you support your clients and community with the root of us?
Wow. I used to do it out of the back of my car in my trunk. I would show up at different schools or locations or homes with just basic needs, snacks, food, rental assistance, phone bill. I used to get computers from some of my friends and clients that had extra laptops, and so I could give kids and families, meaning just share first. And then as people were coming alongside me to help, they would bring more resources, and we were able to set up a Be Safe Fund. So Black Students and Family Fund, which would takes care of educational needs, social needs, medical, all of the things, because before we can even educate and support, we've got to take care of people's needs. And so with a community, again, a Black community that's so isolated in a predominantly white area, the support and network is very slim. And so I just began to build that network, physically showing up, as I said, and then as pandemic moved in, we just built those spaces online. And so my good friend, educator Aaron Jones, we began meeting on online, showing up in spaces to hold space for kids. First, she was reading stories in different languages, and then holding space for youth to meet Black educators and actors and authors and legislators. And so I'm so blessed to find a partner like her to partner and hold space. And so youth would come and sit with us and just have a place to be their authentic self. So we began doing that on Mondays and Thursday nights, have a mental health counselor that sits with our youth as well, so they can just hang out and do homework and be together. It's very healing to them to just be together, look at each other, listen to each other, and realize they are not alone in their isolation. And then we also joined the Equity Institute with research circles, and the youth began to advocate. They always have been, but with the adults in this organization, we're able to open doors for them in a way that have not been opened before. They have done some tremendous work and shared their voice in a youth rally. Over 500 people show up to listen to what youth really need in their education, and they want to not just be heard, but they want to see adults move in a way that shows that they trust them, that they heard them, and that they're going to meet their needs. I'm very honored and to have youth want to show up and be in space where I am. They could be anywhere. They don't have to. They're not students in a class that I was holding. I've never been their teacher in a building for some of these youth who have never even met me, but yet they'll show up 3 or 4 times a week just to hold space and hold circle with us adults who can really see them and support them. And so those youth circles are going on. The Equity Fishbowl is going on. I also hold racial healing circles because I needed a space to talk about all the things that we have been taught not to talk about, taught not to see, taught not to hear. And so I wanted to hear for myself, does white community, white people talk about race? What do they know? Do they advocate for? How would I know? How would I know? Because nothing is changing in the world. That when I go to the store, I'm still being stalked and accused and attacked in different ways. So how would I know? So I needed a place to be able to ask and talk about that. And I invited people to come with me there. And so I've been holding this sacred space for over a couple of years now. And I've got people from the UK, Canada, all over the globe that are showing up to have this important conversation, which brings us healing because we can actually ask, talk, open, explore, explain those curiosity. I always teach my kindergartners, eyebrows up, because our curiosity is the way we understand, and then we can heal. It's the fear and scarcity model that keeps us running in white supremacy and centering whiteness at the core, because we're afraid that what has been done in us historically will be overturned and done to them. And so I can't operate in that fear and scarcity. I need curiosity and answers and understanding. I need to heal. I don't want to carry that forward. And so racial healing circles is a way that we do that on Sundays at 11:30 every week. And I have a special group, Saturday Sisterhood Self-Care. And again, this is where representation is so important. My entire childhood and youth, graduate even through college, I never got to have community with Black women. And so I opened a space and just thought, okay, anybody want to come sit with me? And I get women from all over the globe who are looking for that same thing, connection. And we just see how powerful it is when we come together. And we always recognize, this is why they didn't want us to be together. Look at how we heal ourselves and the whole world by just engaging with each other. And so we also created a Black Male Brotherhood series on Thursday night for our sons, our fathers, our uncles, our friends, so we all can heal.
So I know that you said going to the store sometimes will make you uncomfortable because you'll feel like you're being followed, or not even feel like that. You can clearly see that you're being followed or that you're being accused of something. So when you're placed in those positions, do you actually feel that all lives matter?
So yes, it does, and I can track that on a daily basis. And so thank you for asking. And yes, all lives matter, but I would ask you to finish that statement. All lives matter except whose. A Dahl test can explain that. Doctors Kenneth and Mamie Cole and their research from Brown versus Board of Education in 1940, as well as any third grader from Jane Elliott's class from the Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes experiment. And to confirm that statement, all I have to ask you is that if you would trade places with me. And then the look on your face tells me that you can finish that original statement, which is Black Lives Matter too. And since you understand who you don't want to trade places with, that means you also understand that you've been taught to disregard Black lives, Black brilliance, Black excellence, disregard our Black bodies and our Black minds, and to dehumanize our very existence. And why haven't you ever wondered why? Yet you understand that historically, Black lives have not mattered, ever. We are still policing and practicing segregation, suppressing Black votes, and denying Black humanity. So I just say stop acting like you don't know the truth. That defensiveness comes from actually knowing the truth and from the fear that it will be turned around on you. Perpetuated fear and scarcity equals all the isms. Understanding comes from curiosity, as I said. Curiosity about where that statement comes from. Curiosity about what the protest is about. Curiosity about the history and why it continues and has continued for so long. Curiosity is the only thing that can bring that understanding and healing all the isms in abundance. So, and to further clear it up, all lives will matter when all Black lives matter, and not just the ones that keep whiteness comfortable. If all lives matter, why are we still practicing segregation and passing legislation to keep us from voting and receiving basic human rights to live?
Can you tell me what your thoughts on critical race theory are?
Yes, here we go. So, critical race theory is our ability to critically think and analyze how the construct of race impacts every institution in all aspects of our lives. And let's remember that historically, the institution of education was not designed for critical thinking. It was designed to produce an outcome, a mentality that would support capitalist economy and workers. It wasn't ever designed for many of us to go to college, just a few minds to keep us pushed forward and innovative. Yet schools do not teach about Black, brown, and indigenous minds that already did and continue to do that. And really, in fact, we are talking about race in school all day long, all the time. We're just talking about the white race. We center white minds, white heroes, white inventors. We center white beauty. We even glorify white criminals. So repressing conversations about race in school as harmful to students is code for harmful to white students. And isn't that a hypocrisy? Nobody's ever concerned about how white centering and centering on white supremacy has harmed Black and brown and indigenous students in school. We actually normalize their pain and hurt and oppression. Also, their suffering is acceptable, and so they are sacrificed in order to comfort whiteness. And really, CRT is nothing more than ancestral guilt. I learned that from Dr. Arisha Day, and their experiences that we have not recognized or reconciled. And all races, ethnicities, we all need to do that. We all need that experience. Therefore, having important conversations and critical conversations about the construct of race will free us and heal us, and who doesn't want that? Are we going to be that society going to continue spirit and social media murdering, legislatively lynching, allowing TV talking heads, terrorists to actually kill those who fight to free us all in order to keep the construct in place? So remember whose birthday we celebrate every year after killing him for doing exactly that. If he was so kind, why did cruelty kill him? He should be alive, celebrating his 90th birthday right now. We need to have those critical conversations. Kids are always ready. They're more than ready. They have been having them. It's us adults who are out of the game. So, let's go.
So what kind of corporate clients do you work with?
Oh, I got to shout out to all my folks. I have been invited into cities and municipals to help with diversity and equity racial trainings. I always say I'm not a one-stop shop. I need to have a relationship with my organizations, and so I'm very honored to be able to step into space that is ready to receive that kind of, I call it healing, because all I'm doing is holding circle. And the circle is about our identity. And so with companies, what's your identity of your company? How do you show up? Who is it that you are trying to be in the community? How are you holding space? And so I love that I'm able to bring in different communities into, say, the city of Olympia or Kenmore, and hold spaces with different folks to be able to be heard. It's the same kind of advocacy I do with kids, just doing with adults. So one of my favorite ones was the Harlequin Theater, and it was able to support the actors behind the scenes as they put on a very heavy play in a community that's not used to having those kind of conversations. And so it's just very fulfilling, honoring to be able to work with some of my corporate clients in that way.
So we asked your followers on social media a couple of Q&As.
Oh, good. Let's do that. Kev, come and help me with this.
How's that? How you doing?
Babe.
All right. I got some questions.
My VP here.
All right.
What you got for me?
Well, let's see what we got. Okay, I picked 7. We had about quite a bit of questions, so I will answer 7 of them here. First question.
Yes.
You ready? All right, so I'm gonna start off. Lindsay Rogers.
Yes.
What does community look like during a pandemic?
So it's the word I always say is just show up. Show up. And what that looks like really varies to the person, people, community you're showing up for. Just like I taught you, Lindsay, you've been doing a beautiful job of that. Sometimes it shows up with goods in hand. Sometimes it shows up with support from a bank account to help the household run. Sometimes it show up at that community center with the kids. But basically, the bottom line and the core of it, the root of it, is relationship. And so to build that just takes showing up, consistency, and whatever that looks like, feels like to the community. That's what it is. For the larger community, that would be what we've been doing in supporting Black businesses, Black and Brown Indigenous businesses, how we can do that online, showing up at each other's school board events and speaking, showing letters of support when needed, just making sure we're not isolated and left hanging out on our own somewhere. So just keep showing up.
Showing up. Love it.
Yes.
Paul Reed.
Hi, Paul.
Paul has a question. How do we change our curriculum to be anti-racist?
I'm gonna cross out the word curriculum, hate that word, and put in practice, because it's not the curriculum, because you can have the best curriculum, all the right things, but if the people who are delivering it don't have the anti-bias lens, attitude, belief, understanding, then it's still going to come off as maybe weaponized to students. And so the practice is, and I'm going to defer to Kimberly Creighton, is this goes in any situation, and for all the isms, is I look for the people who are closest to the harm. That's who the answers come from. That's who leads the way. That's who you listen to and lean into. So I wouldn't focus on a curriculum, a book, a lesson. It's the person, and let's understand what truly being anti-racist and removing anti-blackness from your own internal life and identity first. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Sabrina Burr.
My girl, Sabrina. Yes, we are thick as thieves. Okay.
Why are all these education systems talking about mental health, but none of them are effectively addressing it?
You know why. Because that would be admitting that there's actually a problem, and the problem is real, and not only with our young people, with our adults too. Our educators are struggling, administrators, counselors, where there's not a clear boundary to say, well, just kids. So, and you've heard me say this before. I said when teachers are hungry, they eat the kids, meaning they can't help them until they get help themselves. And so that's gonna open a big can of worms that is going to need lots of support, lots of legislation, lots of dollars. And so it's better if we just kind of ignore it and maybe put a few band-aids on it and hire a counselor here or there, and then that's just ignoring and putting our head in the sand like an ostrich. And so the youth have more than explained and documentation on what they need and why. There's not learning going on in any institution when they're in pain and not listened to, not heard, not valued. And until our schools become a place of healing, then they can become a place of learning. So support looks very different than what showing up in a school building and having a one-on-one conversation. We need group and community healing. We need circle every day, all the time, around everything, forever. I don't know how we're not doing that with circle. I mean, I'm doing that in all of my spaces, and in PE especially. That's why I'm a PE teacher, because where can you go and get relief? Where can you go and come back to yourself? Who is the person that kids trust at school to be able to give them that space to be able to do that? So I'm there on purpose, and yeah, you know why. Stop acting like you don't know better. you know what I mean.
That's deep. That's deep.
Excuse me.
Good question, Sabrina.
Yeah, thank you.
We also just wanted to say thank you all so much for your questions. It's awesome.
Yes.
Got them right here. Thank you.
I haven't got to see them all yet, so you're surprising me. Who else is in?
We got Joy Pratt, Stanford.
Oh, Miss Joy, how are you? Beautiful Joy. What's she saying?
Tell me about your journey as a teacher.
Oh my goodness. Okay, how long do we have? No. So, as I said, my parents and family were educators, and I never wanted to be a teacher on purpose because I'm not the kind of kid who's going to sit in a chair all day and have knowledge poured into me like what our standard lessons are. I just thought that was ridiculous, and it didn't support the way that I wanted to show up. And so I wasn't really looking to be an educator until I had representation in front of me, a black male PE teacher. He wasn't my direct teacher, but he was across the gym. And I went, ooh, I could do that. Because my core self is, I need to be connected to nature. That's how I get back to myself. That's how I heal. That's why I want to go to Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls!
And so if I can be an educator, because I am one, but if I can do it outside, oh, honey, there we go. And so as I began that journey, I also realized that that's a space where the majority of students it's a requirement. In elementary school, everybody gets to see, PE. At high school, I taught the graduation requirement classes in life fitness, so you had to come through me. And so putting myself in a position to be able to see the most amount of students and disrupt the white narrative so they can see beautiful black me and have a relationship and change the way they are being programmed and to see black people and that anti-blackness that is ever so present. That's the way that I disrupt that and handle that while holding true to my core self and healing while I do that hard work. So, and I like to have fun. So.
How many students?
Ooh, 3 decades. How many students is that? 39 years. Oh my gosh, if I've been teaching them, probably 300,000. Is that a number? I haven't ever counted, but yes, I have a lot. I have a lot of babies that I've held in my years, and I'm thankful for every one of them. Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes, thank you.
All right, familiar face for me here, Jill Backman.
Oh, Jill, this is our neighborhood, childhood friends. What'd she say?
Jill asks, tell me about your wonderful 3 children and what you are proud of most as a mom. Remember how we hosted Bible study in my backyard and our sports camps to keep our kids active and together?
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jill. Thank you. And Jill's a mom I hold close to me. And those who know Jill know why. And so,
It's okay.
Yeah. I love that their family met us where we were. And living in a predominantly white neighborhood, I'm not even sure I've told you this, Kev, but I would create those programs and activities, the sports clubs, the Bible studies, all of those things, even going swimming, because I couldn't trust the environment that we were in to not harm you. And so when I'd go and try to, sign you up and let's go be on this team, even, brownies and Girl Scouts, there was just never enough room. Or I'd go to the swimming pool and try to, come swimming and, we don't have it, we sold out of tickets. Or if we even got to get in the pool, people would get out. And so I started to make a community for us. And Jill and her family, the Max family, were able to see us where we were, meet our need, and hold that space. And so that helped me keep you safe as we did those activities. And as a child, I was unaware. So I was doing the same thing that my father was doing, that granddaddy was doing for you, casting a net around a neighborhood, humanizing us to the area so we could have a sense of safety. And it was real important for me as your mother to and your father too, to let you see that we were moving in the world and unafraid, not hiding. I needed you to not have that fear growing up, so then you would step into the world in the way that you are now. It was why you're sitting here and doing what you're doing. And so I've shared many times about how I've treated my children as people, human beings. My mother would scold me a little bit. You let your kids think for themselves and do all that, because I would put things in your hands and in your world to have you manage them. If you could take care of your room, your world, your home, when you move outside of the home, then you will be able to handle whatever comes near you. Do you remember when you went away to college and you said, Mom, they can't even do their laundry, they can't do this, all of these things that were so natural and normal to you about taking care of yourself, so then you would never have to have anybody police and take care of you or manage you. Because it's one thing to know that you have power. I don't empower anyone. Everybody has and holds that power, and what the trick is, you got to convince them that they don't have it. And so what I intentionally did was made sure that you had it. As soon as you could talk, as soon as you could walk, as soon as you could open a door, as soon as you could go drive a car, I needed you to know that that power was always yours. My oldest, Corey, she is an educator, holds a master's degree in education policy. She's done what I couldn't do, and she's watched me, being the oldest, year after year, have this fight with relationship, with education, of not being able to talk about the things that I know are happening in the world with Black, Brown, and Indigenous people, all the contributions and things that come from our people. And she vowed to go and get the kind of education so she could change and rewrite the textbooks and change the policies about things. So she's fighting at it from this end, I'm fighting at it from this end. All my kids you're an educator, did you know that? So it's unintentional, but intentional, because it's love. It's not a job, it's not work. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to make somebody do something or feel guilty. It's love. I want to be treated with love and respect, and I need to show what that looks like in everything I do, and especially my children. So I thank you so much for being that. I thank Corey and Cameron. I'm so proud of all of them. What makes me most proud is that they are proud of me. And I've got all my life to be your mom, but to be able to see me in a different light, for my own kids to see my humanity, that's huge. That's huge. And important. So thank you, Jill. I love you. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Jill. We appreciate you a lot.
That's deep for me.
Very deep. Very deep. And we're always thinking about you and your family. All right. We got two more.
Okay, I can do it.
You hang in there.
Just take a breath.
Hi, Facebook.
Oh, you should have told me about that question first coming up. Okay.
All right.
Who else is there?
Ken A. Smith.
Yay, the Smith family. Hi, everyone. Oh, I remember their first day of school.
I love to hear about how you handle pressure and teach kids and adults how to handle pressure.
Pressure, that's a couple, let's see. What do you mean by that? Pressure? As I talked about that, we put pressure on ourselves, internal and then external, tick, 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 clock. So again, don't rescue kids. out of their confidence, because when they have that in their youngest life and grow up, that pressure just it's more of, they put it on themselves instead of being pressured from the outside. And so again, don't rob them out of that experience by trying to save or rescue them out of a learning experience. So there's that kind of pressure. And then maybe, I'm kind of reading into it since I don't have specifics, but about stress and how to handle that. And again, as I said, I'm a PE teacher on purpose. I know myself. I know what I need. I know how to get back to the core of me quickly. I can look outside and immediately see deep nature, the pine trees. I can be anywhere in Washington within 20 or 30 minutes to see water and vastness. I can always come back to me quickly. And if you don't know yourself or know how to get back to your core, or who you are at the core and how you operate and how you can calm yourself, then that's where you need to spend time. And for most people, I don't know for most people, but I'm just plugging my world of exercise, going for a walk. And first you need to get your mind quiet. Go somewhere quiet so you can actually listen and hear your body talk to you, because it will tell you every time my body says, ooh, if you don't rest, I will drop you. Right? So get quiet, listen to yourself first, and then follow what your body is telling you. We always push through because we think it's just a supporting capitalism. So I'll just say it like that. So stop supporting capitalism and do what your body needs. You don't need to work that hard to be able to just breathe, survive, live, and thrive. We don't want to just be in the survival rut. We want to thrive. And so take your mind there first and let your body follow. And if you need some PE toys, come find me. I have all the best stuff in the world.
April Rose.
Oh, my April. Hi, Rose family. Oh, I miss them. This is, okay, I'll let you see what she asked before I tell her story. So,
April says, talk to us about the lack of accountability in the school system, combined with the inability to respond and act to protect, serve, and honor all non-white children.
Oh, I know she's speaking that truth to me. April is my camp, and all the Camp Roots families out there. That was a parent in my school who helped. I helped her develop the things that I was doing with you when you were little. I was doing that all by myself and all of that. And when I found and connected with the Rose family, that was just another great match that supported all of the ways that I've been talking to you about how to heal yourself and protect yourself and move through the world and come back to the core. So I appreciate Miss April and all of her work. And she is one who has watched me do the work and be rejected, dehumanized, pushed aside, where she kept coming back to say, gosh, Fernell, you always want the best for everybody. You always give your most. And why isn't that they don't want to hear you, see you, support you? And I said, well, that's again having to admit the truth about we really aren't meeting the needs of the kids who most need it, the ones who are furthest away from education justice. And it's not that anybody's a horrible bad person. It's not about this goodness and badness. It's about doing the right thing, and always, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. And so accountability is always about that, doing the right thing. And if you can do the right thing for the people who it matters most first, that should always be your agenda. Because there's a lot of right things to do, but we never go to the bottom of the barrel and get the ones who are left there consistently. And that's what will bring the rest of the accountability and the healing up. We just pick and choose and dip and dive a little bit, and so it's never going to be enough, because we didn't go to the root of us. We didn't go to the root of who we're leaving out and who's furthest away from education and racial justice.
Like
so.
the root. Digging them roots.
I'm just telling you where
Digging
it is.
them roots.
Stop. We need to not be on camera.
That was funny.
But thank you,
Thank
April.
you, April. And a question from me.
Uh-oh. What you got?
What's next for you in your future?
Oh my goodness. As I said, I am embracing my eldership now. I've been waiting to grow up all my life. I'm like, oh, I think I did it. And, age is just a number. I love that I get to say I'm 60 years old, because everybody who did my birthday laps this year, 60 laps around the gym, oh yeah. And birthday push-ups and sit-ups too, don't forget. So as I think about that, I never really could see clearly, like, when am I going to stop teaching? Because remember, I was never going to start this in the first place. I thought, I'll give it 5 years, and here it is. This will be year 39 or 40 to be in the field of education. And I'm probably one of the people who's gotten the most unique seat, because I've been a student in the very district that I teach in, and that all of you, my kids, were raised in. And so I have a picture of families for some kids from before they were born, because they walked their older brother and sister to school and their mom was pregnant, and so they hear my voice on the playground. And so when they are born, I have a boy who is in my 4th and 5th grade class. I don't know how to say his name. Hi, Jace. And he has known my voice since before he was born. And just to watch a family grow like that has been just the best front row seat to humanity that I can picture. One day, I don't know, so I might need to write a book about that as I retire. But I'm always going to be an educator, and I'm always going to be with the Root of Us. I'm always going to hold space for our most marginalized youth. I'm going to always have my heart open for those who want to heal. And what that looks like is it just will depend on who shows up, because that's what I'm going to do, is keep showing up. I'm going to keep showing up. That's what I'm going to do. So whether I retire and stop teaching PE, there'll be another way to educate and teach. So I'm excited for the future. I think I could retire now, but I'll give it another year. I know.
Wow. I'm
just getting used to being an empty nester now. All my kids are in their own homes and thriving and living. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of weird. Ooh, I might need a date. So there we go. Okay. Did I say that on? Okay, no. Like I said, see what you do. Stop. Okay. I'm just gonna keep doing me. That's what I'm gonna do.
Love it. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. This
Appreciate
was fun.
Anything you want to say to the Facebook land?
I just am so appreciative of my Equity Institute family, and all my Root of Our youth out there, my beautiful Ruth, love you. And I'm just so blessed to be in the position that I am now. I've waited all my life to link elbows with like-minded people and not feel alone in the work. Being so isolated has been suffocating for me, and so I'm finally able to breathe myself and create those spaces that I've wanted so long, not just for me, but for other people too. So I'm just so grateful for you and Cameron and Corey that have seen this all along and kept encouraging me to do what I do best, which is love on people. So gonna keep doing that. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Thank you, crew.
See you, Facebook.